Hey you guys, Tosha Schore, your partner in parenting here. Thanks for hanging with me for a few minutes here. I am here today because it is the second birthday of Listen, the book that I co-authored with my mentor Patty Whipfler. And I wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about why I think it's worth your while to sit down with this book. And I want to preface that by saying that even though my boys are now, how old are they? 11, 13, and 16, and I can actually read. I couldn't read when I really needed this book. And, well, I still need it, but now I have the info in my brain. But when they were little, I did not have time to read. And one thing that I really want you to know is that when I sat down to write this, one of the things that was really important to me was that you could get a whole lot of value without reading it cover to cover. So I just want you to know that that is possible. That is how we wrote it. So it's divided up nice and neatly, and I wanted it to be sort of an encyclopedia of what do I do when my kid does X, or when I'm struggling with Y. So section 3, there's a whole section that works just like that, in addition to us teaching you what we claim to be teaching you, which is the 5 simple tools to meet your everyday parenting challenges. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tosha Schore. Online, you may know me as your partner in parenting. I am, in addition to author of this book, I'm a trainer for hand-in-hand parenting, and I run my own business where I support mainly parents of young boys. I coach parents one-on-one, and I have an online community, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, I want to spend a few minutes, maybe 10, 15, talking with you about why I think this book is worth your time. So there are a few things. First of all, let me just say one thing. My boys are not easy, okay? They were never easy, and they've gotten a lot easier, but when they were little, I would hear a lot of drop off or pick up. I would get feedback from teachers, that they needed to see therapists, that they couldn't sit still in class, that they were, acting inappropriately, they were being class clowns, treating other people badly, etc., etc. There were a lot of complaints that I got along the way. So fast forward, like I said, they're 11, 13, and 16 now, and I want you to know that there is probably not a week that goes by, literally, where I don't get somebody who reaches out to me specifically to tell me how impressed they were by one of my children. And I'm not saying that because I want to be here bragging. That's not at all my intention. And believe me, there are still plenty of struggles. But I'm here to say that to you because I hope it will inspire hope. Okay? And not only was it like I was getting sort of this negative feedback from other people, but I was struggling with them at home. Like there was aggression, there were sibling issues, there were sleep issues, nursing every 2 hours all night. I mean, there were issues. Let me just tell you, there were issues. But things are going well now, and I want that for you. So today I want to tell you about 4 specific reasons why I feel like this book is worth your while. And again, I'm talking about Listen. So there are a lot of books to choose from, I know it, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm all about the how, okay? I'm not really interested in talking to you about theory. I'm happy to if you beg me, but really what I want to know is where are you right now and where would you like to be? And then I want to figure out how to get you there. And this book will help you get there. So a few things that are really unique to this book that I think will help you on your parenting journey are the following. Let's start by the first one. The first one is that parenting is real work, and we don't get that message enough, okay? I don't want to go into it in great depth right now, but I just want to point out that it is incredibly ridiculous for a person who is working a paid full-time job to have a child and then suddenly be responsible for a full-time, paid job, in addition to a full-time unpaid job. That's 2 full-time jobs. Whoops, that's 4. 2 full-time jobs, okay? That's way too much for any one person to possibly handle alone. And we, especially here in the United States, we think we're supposed to do everything alone and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but it doesn't work very well. So don't listen to us. Anyway, So parenting is real work. That's ridiculous. We can't do it like that. And one of the things that we do in this book is we say, hey, this is work, and let's give it let's just name it for what it is. Okay, let's call it work, and let's figure out then how we can get the kind of support that we need in order to be able to do the job well. And that goes into my point number 2, which is that we're super under-supported, and that makes sense, right? Because back to point number 1, if we don't see parenting as work, then our institutions aren't built to support that work, right? If I want to take up mountain biking as a hobby, well, I don't expect like my government to support me in that. I work hard, I buy myself a mountain bike, I maybe get a lesson or 2, or I just go out and fall a few times and find my way, right? It's a hobby. That's how we treat parenting. But parenting isn't a hobby, it's a job, and we need support. What do we do with our kids for the first 5 or 7 years of their lives before they go into schools when we're working that full-time paid job? We can't leave them at home, they can't take care of themselves yet, right? These are real struggles. What do you do when you're worried about losing your job if you don't go to work, but you have a sick child you need to stay home with? These are systems that don't understand that parenting is work. And so I want to just, the reason that I think it's important to name this is because we do so much blaming of ourselves. It's hard because I'm not working enough. It's hard because I'm not doing it right. Well, I'm not saying there aren't things that we could all do better, and we teach you how to do some of these things in ways that are going to be much more beneficial to you and your family, but we've also got a problem here, and we just need to name the elephant in the room. So I also want to say that the things that we can do to help, right? One of the things that we do as parents is we walk around with all this pretense, we get all dressed nice and we make videos and we go on Facebook and we act like everything's great and we show the pictures. Oh, I just posted a picture right before this video of me and my little boy, and he's sitting on a bench and it looks like heavenly. And I said, I miss those sweet summer days or something like that. Okay, well, let me just give you the backstory of that picture. That moment was everything that it looks like on Facebook, okay? But the half an hour before that moment, he was whining and moaning about like how much longer the hike was going to be till we got to the sea lions, and could he just go back to the car, and could I carry his shoes, and I mean it wasn't so fun. Okay, now I have tools, I dealt with it well, I feel plenty good about how I dealt with it as a parent, but it wasn't like that Facebook photo. It wasn't like, oh, this beautiful, wonderful full day I had. There were some sweet moments. That's the one I post, because the whiny one, I didn't think that would go over so big with you guys or anybody else. Plus, I don't want to embarrass my kid, right? But anyway, all that to say is we can claim those great moments, but the pretense doesn't help. We need to acknowledge that there are things that are hard, there are things that are good, and the pretense sets us apart from one another. And when we've got this work of parenting and we don't have our institutions supporting us yet, we're working on that, but then we really need to step up to the job and support one another. So there's kind of 2 sides of that coin. One is about building a support network for yourself, right? We can't do this job alone. So what can you do to get support for yourself? And we have a chapter in the book on listening partnerships, which in my opinion is one of the absolute best ways to build what's the word? I'm blanking on the word, but to sort of fill your gas tank and I can't remember the word. Anyway, to just really get yourself into what I like to call good parenting shape, so that you can parent in ways that you feel proud of. Okay, so that's the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is when you see somebody else struggling, instead of pretending like it's not happening because they're embarrassed or something like that, can you just reach out? Can you say, oh my God, I have so been there, or something like that? Because we've all been that parent of the tantruming kid in the supermarket or at the park or wherever you are. And we've all felt like everybody around us was judging us, that everybody was thinking, what a crappy parent that is. But the reality is that's not what everybody's thinking. And if just one person takes a moment to acknowledge that it's hard and that the parent's doing a good job, that shifts not only how they feel about themselves, but because you've shifted how they feel about themselves, you've exponentially increased their ability to deal with the situation peacefully with their child. And what more could you want, right? I mean, what a great gift that is. So those are the first 2 points that I want to talk about. The third thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, this is just one of the reasons why I think reading this book is worth your while, or flipping through it, or finding a chapter here and there, or an anecdote here and there that speaks to you, is that I want to get the message out loud and clear that feelings are incredibly misunderstood. And I'm talking about like big feelings like crying and tantruming and screaming and being angry. All of these feelings, especially that we've labeled bad in our cultures, they actually can be harnessed for good. And that's a lot of what this book talks about. So, you know, when we talk about, okay, how to stop your kid from having tantrums, so, or you know, let's just use that as an example. We're not saying, right? You can't actually physically stop a child from having tantrums in the moment, but what you can do is harness that incredible power that those emotions have to heal by simply listening. And this is a tool that we call stay listening that you can read about in the book. There's a short chapter just on that if that's all you want to read. Okay? And if we can actually just be present with our child and recognize that those big behaviors are just struggle, they're just sort of like emotional gunk that needs to come out, kind of like, you know, we eat and we poop out the what we don't need, like all the waste. So we take in all sorts of information and feeling and interactions throughout our days and throughout our lives, and some of it we just gotta get out because it's yucko, right? And whether we like it or not, we as parents are the best place for that to happen. And what we want to do is create a safe space for our kids to be able to do that. And we do that by not shutting them down, not judging them, and not getting angry or upset when they show us these big feelings. Instead, really recognizing it as like, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, I'm struggling, I need help, and even though this looks ugly, this is the best way I can figure out how to tell you that I'm not doing so well. And then we step in and we just listen. You don't have to say anything. You can just listen through and amazing things will happen. This is how behaviors change. This is how we stop our kids from having tantrums, by listening all the way through. You do it over and over again, you see those tantrums lessen in frequency. Okay? So I really, if there's one thing you get from this book, it's that you need to use those feelings for good, not try to stop them. So that's something that I just find super, super exciting. And on the bigger picture, as you know, for those of you who are familiar with my work with boys, my tagline is creating a more peaceful world, one sweet boy at a time. But I look at this book and essentially we're creating a more peaceful world, one sweet child at a time, and one sweet parent at a time, by listening. And it's not that hard. It is so much easier than trying to fix our kids all the time. So much easier. People often say to me, I thought this was going to be so hard, but it's actually way easier than what I was doing before. It might not look pretty, but it's certainly much less anxiety-provoking and much less challenging to master. Okay? It's actually doable. Okay, and the last thing that I think is awesome about this book, this really, really important message that we send in this book, has to do with aggression and fear. And the message that we send is that behind aggressive behaviors is fear. In other words, fear is generally what drives aggression. And understanding that allows us to have so much more empathy for a child who's acting aggressively. And when we feel empathetic towards a child, we go, oh, that child must be really scared. They're acting that way. Well, then, of course we want to help them, right? I mean, who doesn't want to help a child who's scared? Of course we do. So if we can shift our perspective and understand what's going on when a child is acting out, if you will, then we have so much more opportunity to help life go better for him or her and for us. So there's a whole section on aggression and there's a whole section on fear. And that's something that I haven't seen anywhere else and I'm super, super proud of. And again, I know I said if there's one thing you just learn about the feelings, that's good. Like just learn about the stay listening and the power of the emotional release process and how to harness that for good. If you can just do that, then that's worth it. But if you got a child who's struggling with aggression, or if your child is encountering another child regularly who is struggling with aggressive behaviors, I would highly encourage you to just pick up the book and read the section on aggression and the section on fear. It will give you so much information and so many ideas about how to approach the situation from a relationship building standpoint, from a perspective of how can I help these kids reconnect and be close to one another. This is how we're going to stop bullying. This is how we're going to stop, cliques. Kids can be so darn mean. This is how we stop that. This is how we support them in building relationships that are going to last a lifetime. This is how we support them to build sibling relationships that are going to be positive moving forward. Okay, so there's so much more I could say about Listen. Again, it turns 2. It's a birthday party, guys. I'm very, very proud of this piece of work. I promise you that I would, even if I wrote it and I didn't think it was worth your time, I would tell you because I'm that honest. But I really think it is worth your while. So I hope you'll take a moment to grab a copy of the book. There's an audiobook, there's a paper copy of the book, whatever you prefer. And just dive into the parts that speak to you. Again, you don't have to read it cover to cover, just a little bit at a time, wherever you're struggling, whatever you'd like to know about. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at questions@toshashore.com. You can go to my website, toshashore.com. You can go to the Hand in Hand Parenting website, which is at handinhandparenting.org. They've got tons of free articles and all sorts of information to help you help parenting go well, right? We want you and your kids to thrive. So thanks for hanging in there with me for these few minutes. I know you have lots of other things that you could be doing, so go do them, go hang out with your kids, and hopefully I'll see you online or in person soon. Bye-bye.